Camera number 311 of 365 is the Dynax 600 SI Classic. I guess looking through the various bits of information I can find on the internet, it seems that it's called Classic because it harks back to the classic time when you had buttons and switches to operate all the functions. So while it does include a liquid crystal display on the top, and looking through the viewfinder, you get the full range of information, aperture, shutter speeds, etc. Basically, the camera, you have a dial, and it does exactly what it says on the dial, really, rather than struggling through various menus that are so common in some of these cameras of this particular age. So the camera requires batteries to operate. So let's just have a look. It's a 2CR5 battery, and then that gets put in there. And then looking at the front, we have our lens release. It's a Minolta A bayonet mount. We just rotate the lens. This is a Sigma that came with the camera, a 288 to 200, 3.8. Not sure whether I'll use it or whether I'll go to use a Minolta branded lens. I'm not sure about that. Just note to user here, the grip goes very sticky, and whatever was used goes horrible. So I've had to recover that, and it hasn't done a very good job on that, I must say. It's a bit some air pockets there. So, but anyway, at least it's better than it was, because that would have been very uncomfortable with a sticky grip. And it does tend to crack as well, I noticed, around here. So again, note to user, if you do see one of these and you want one of them, just to check that. Meanwhile, we have a button for our flash. We have a toggle switch here for our autofocus or manual focus. A lens or preview, which is electronic there. Mechanical, electromechanical, would we call that. And a little self-timer lamp. We have a little dial here that allows us to choose, when in manual mode, our shutter speeds. And around the back here we have a button, or a dial rather, that chooses aperture when we're in manual mode. We only have four or three program modes. Actually, we have four program modes, beg your pardon. We have shutter priority, and we change our shutter with this back dial here. And then we have metered manual mode, where we have a little graph along here, and it slides along showing us where we are in our exposure, 0, and then minus, +1, plus, -2. We just move it along using this button or that button. And then aperture priority mode, again we use that dial there. Interestingly, in program mode there is a point and shoot mode, and what we have to do is line up all the dials so that they are horizontal. So our little dial there, you can see a little marker there. We also use that dial there and put that on center all of those dials, and then I think we're good to go. The camera will shoot as a point and shoot camera. The camera will make all the decisions regarding aperture and shutter speed, and we just have to point it and it takes the image. So there's the four program modes. The dial also has a little collar around it where we can select multiple exposure at the top here, ME, multiple exposure, and then we have exposure bracketing set of images. I don't know that we can control how much it brackets. I think it's just a given either 1 or 2 stops above and below. And then we have another dial, another point of single release, continuous release, and self-timer. And then over the side here we have another button that controls our focus mode, a continuous mode for focusing, or a single focus, or an A, which I forgot. We need to put that, when we're in program mode, we need to put that in A as well. That's the last one. Now I do have a problem with the shutter button here. It doesn't always operate as is demonstrated here. So I'm hoping that the way I can overcome that is there's a little panel here. Oh, see, that's a bit late, isn't it? Actually, that's probably because I set the self-timer. Ah, so it does work. Let's just put that on continuous. There we go. But it doesn't always fire. So what I'm going to do is if I can take this panel off here, this cover, I shall employ a remote, the Minolta RC1000, and I'll plug that in, and then hopefully this will overcome the problem, if I can get it in, there we go, of it releasing. There we go, that works perfectly. The only downside is I will have to have it, the camera on a tripod, so there we go. Where were we? See, there are so many functions here. I hope you haven't got bored. I hope you're still here. While we're over the other side, we have exposure compensation and flash exposure compensation. Our on-off button, our auto exposure lock, our selection of our our exposure modes, what I would call matrix metering or segment metering, I think is the Minolta term. Our our center weighted and spot, and then our focus area is a wide focus area or a single focus area. And then finally, mid-roll rewind, some controls for flash, which include a wireless flash, interestingly. And then finally we can choose our own ISO with pressing that button, and I think is it the back button? Okay. Good, so I think I've exhausted all the functions. I certainly have exhausted myself. That's the Dynax 600 SI, and that has been camera number 311 of 365.